Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and so pleased to have in the studio with us Michael Eric Dyson, the author of a brilliant new book, Tears We Cannot Stop, A Sermon to White America. And we pick up some phone calls?
Let's do that,
every single line is full here.
All right, good deal.
Michael in Imperial Beach, California. You are on the air with me and Michael Eric Dyson.
Hey, Thom and Professor Dyson. Thom, you just stole my thunder. Professor Dyson, how do white people, and I'm white, how do white people justify the Holocaust of Native Americans who are people just like myself? How does a white person just turn their heads and watch Standing Rock happen? Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, God bless you, man. I mean, this is the kind of self-consciousness we have to encourage in ourselves, just to think as a culture what we've done, as a community what we've done, as a nation how we've been complicit in the destruction of human beings, of human communities, of taking for granted the ability to have the sacred spaces of our culture protected. If somebody wanted to destroy one of our sanctuaries or kill one of our churches or undermine one of our synagogues or tear down one of our temples, we would find it abhorrent. And yet we routinely tear down, stand ground on Native peoples, indigenous peoples, First Nation peoples, and don't realize the degree to which all of us have benefited from the horrible, misdeeds done in the name of America against them. So I think all of us have to become more conscious, become more aware, know our history. Isn't it interesting? When it comes to American history, if it's about Lincoln or if it's about Thomas Jefferson or Benjamin Franklin, we are ravenous. We can't get enough of that history.
Dead white guys.
I mean, hey, 100 books a year. We can't. No, we can't. We talk about some of the history you're talking about, Wounded Knee. We talk about, African-American people in history. Hey, get over it. Stop. We don't want to hear anymore. Well, wait a minute. I thought you were ravenous consumers of history. Now you don't want to hear it. That's the kind of thing we have to confront. And people like you, the caller, thinking about it, encouraging others of your particular tribe, group, race, ethnicity to think about it is how we begin to change.
Freddie in Blakesley, Pennsylvania. Hey, Freddie, thanks for calling. You're on the air with me and Michael Eric Dyson.
Thank you for taking my call. Mr. Dyson, Professor Dyson, can I ask you this? When a certain percentage of white Democratic voters who voted Democratic all their lives, who also voted for Obama, decided to take their vote and switch it to Donald Trump, do you think it might have been something called, this is what I came up with it yesterday, watch the DNC, POC, people of color or multicultural fatigue?
Yeah, there's no doubt that there's, or what somebody, POC fatigue or compassion fatigue or identifying with, black or brown or red or yellow people, sure. If the recent election was characterized as the kind of revenge of the white working class, it's interesting to me, first of all, the white working class does need to be paid attention to. That is no doubt about that. There is no doubt that that should be occurring, but not at the expense of understanding women's issues or issues of the environment or African-American and Latino people. There's a false dichotomy that's being driven, a wedge between those various, quote, identity groups. Now people will say, well, we got to get beyond identity politics. Well, when the identity was white male, nobody questioned it because it didn't have to be articulated. It didn't have to be examined. It didn't have to be acknowledged in that certain way because it was seen as American. One of the virtues of whiteness is to be seen as American, to be seen as neutral, to have whiteness rendered as invisible. And as a result of that, when white brothers and sisters say to us, hey, why can't you people just stop being obsessed with color? They don't realize that they have the advantage of having their whiteness identified with what it means to be a human being. So when it comes to that kind of fatigue, of course, like, oh, my God, there's another one. It's women, it's gay people, it's black people, it's brown people. When indeed what it is ultimately is about being a human being. Martin Luther King Jr. was in jail in Birmingham, and his white warden came to him and said, you know what, Dr. King, you're wrong. Segregation is right. King said, no, it's not. He said, but tell me how much money you make. They had a conversation. King finally said, look, you need to be out here marching with us. You've got more in common with us than you've got in common with the captains of industry and the business people and the overlords, or in this case, the so-called billionaires. Well, they're not so-called, except in the case of one, because we don't really know because he hasn't released his taxes. The billionaires who are out here, Wilbur Ross just got, sent through, Betty DeVos as Secretary of Education and so on. The so-called blue-collar billionaire is an oxymoronic statement, and white brothers and sisters who are working class and poor are not well served by people whose interests are not theirs. But they are sold a bill of good. And what are they sold a bill of good? That at least you're not the Negro. At least you're not the black person. At least you're not the embodiment of all that is scurrilous to American democracy, which is why Donald Trump could spend so much time beating up on Barack Obama, despite his intelligence and his achievement as an illegitimate, example of what it means to be an American citizen. So, yeah, there's a lot of fatigue going around, but the tragedy is it doesn't serve the interests of white working class people very well at all.
Or anybody else.
Right.
Except for Trump and his billionaire buddies, right?
There it is.
Kia in Federal Way, Washington. You're on the air.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. Quick question. I've been a social worker for over 20 years of my life. I'm not white or I'm not black, but I am very much in support the race and social justice movement at my workplace. My big question is, how do we hold the people in power? How do we consequence them for continuing to be racist? And even though they say, well, I didn't mean for that to have that impact, and I didn't know that was going to negatively impact you.
Right.
How do we hold them accountable for the fact that, hey, if you don't have a diverse hiring panel, you're going to get X, or hey, if you don't listen to other people, you're going to continue to hire the same group of people that don't understand the people they're serving. And being a minority, I've spoken up, and what has happened to me directly is I have been shamed. But the white person was protected. The white employer was protected. Right. But then I was put in a box of she's angry. Oh my goodness, da da da. And then, of course, nobody wants to go to work and feel like just because I said one thing, now I'm this dangerous person at work when all my life I've been doing good work.
That's
but the white person gets protected and moved to another place, but no loss of pay, no loss of anything, and they just hope this passes. And so I'm really frustrated because I feel like as working professionals, when you care about people, what can we do? And my only answer is I feel like we have to negatively have consequences. We can't just talk about it. Talking doesn't do anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a brilliant analysis. And God bless you for your courage and your bravery in the face of, such opposition, because that's one of the ways people are silenced. They're stigmatized. They're demonized. They're marginalized. They're put to the periphery. And then the other people who may have been the source of the virus, so to speak, of bigotry or insensitivity or racism, are protected because, oh, my God, it's horrible that this woman is attacking you that way. Again, that's another privilege of a certain variety and brand of whiteness. And I think, first of all, we got to do what you're doing today. We got to do what Brother Hartman does. We got to name it. We got to continue to name it. Now, that's a long-term strategy, but you got to erode the ignorance and the indifference and make people understand. You can't make them pay consequences if they're not even aware of the kind of clash between the ideals we nurture as Americans in this country about fairness and justice and equality, and yet we're not practicing them, on the other hand, number one. Number two, the consequence you're talking about could be a couple of things. First of all, voting. Think about it. We got to put the right people in office. Now, we tried to vote this last time. When people talk about the populist revolution, where? Hillary Clinton won by nearly 3 million votes. You got lucky in 5 states. The Electoral College handed you the victory. That is not a mandate. But look at what's going on. The people who were opposed to Jeff Sessions, and Jeff Sessions trying to present himself as a little Lord Fauntleroy. Oh, no, I believe in justice, and I won't. But what has he already done? Withdrawn a major objection in the Texas case of voter ID laws. That is devastating. This is exactly what the opponent said he would do, the kind of racial gerrymandering that he would do politically. And it leads to a weakened Justice Department, enhances the status of a racist practice in a state like Texas, and it makes the protection of the interests and the rights of black and brown people much more vulnerable. So we've got to continue to strike out in terms of dealing with our necessity of voting. I know a lot of people say, well, it doesn't make a difference. And we're laughing at banana republics because they don't have one man, one woman, one vote. And we thought we had it here. No, we're electing electors. We don't have it either. But we still got to stay on the front line. we still got to talk about voting rights laws. We got to still talk about voter ID laws. We still have to make a difference in terms of not only voting for the president, but down ballot. We got a midterm election coming up. Let's not give up all hope. Let's punish some of these Congress people for the support that they've given to Donald Trump. Let's deprive him of at least one of those houses, the Senate or the House, to be able to rubber stamp his positions. But let's also practice economic withdrawal. You know, Martin Luther King Jr. and others said, I'm not going to ride on the bus if you're going to diss us. If we begin to identify that Uber is messed up and on the board of Trump and so on, and you put enough publicity out there, then they get off the board. Of course, we said we're going to deal with Lyft and others, and then all of them. I mean, part of the thing is it's so pervasive. So many people are in the seats of power and in the bed of power that they make raw negotiations that really go against the interest of ordinary people. But we've got to have enough faith to believe that if we constantly keep up the organizing, the resisting, the raising our voices, that's the only hope and the ultimate hope we have of challenging the unjust arrangements that prevail in society and at the places where we work. But brave people like you, unfortunately, pay a price. But because you did what you did, you begin to challenge the system, and you never know how that challenge leads ultimately to overturning it altogether.
You are a brilliant preacher and professor. We are in your class and in your pews here.
Bless you, sir.
Michael Eric Dyson with us. Tears We Cannot Stop, A Sermon to White America is the title of his book. You need to get a copy. This is an amazing, extraordinary book. We'll be back.